Hey, what's up, Internet? It's Kris Krüg. I'm here with Peter Bitner. We're the co-founders of the upgrade.ai, and excited to have everyone join us here today for a little preview of some of the stuff that we're going to be rolling out in our 6-week certification program, AI Upgrade for Creative Professionals, that starts next week. Hey, what's up, Peter?
How's it going? Happy
Oh, man, it's going great, dude. It's been a big day. I led a AI training for AMD microchips marketing teams this morning, 75 people at 7 a.m. and did a little sales pros AI upgrade after that. And then here we are with my favorite one, the Creative Pros flagship.
Yeah, so maybe we should just rewind and talk a little bit about how we met, what we're up to for those of us joining us. Welcome. Thanks for spending some time with us. Please let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments. Let us know. We'd love to also get your questions, comments, etc. Throughout, we're going to have a couple demos with some of our favorite ways to use AI and a sneak preview of a lot of the things in our course. The AI for Creative Professionals is really kind of the first course. It's kind of the OG of our now 4 ongoing courses quarterly that we teach, focused on content that's near and dear to us, right? Both as former journalists and artists, visual sort of aficionados. Both Kris and I come from the photography world originally, and videography. We met originally in Google News Initiative's basically accelerator program a few years ago, now nearly 3 years ago, which is insane. Actually, this month is probably 3 years, which is really hard to believe. But we were both, in the cohort of roughly 50, the only two working on AI-related initiatives and businesses as, journalists, former journalists, in sort of transition, and we decided to team up. We were doing pretty much the same thing, right? Variety of workshops and courses, and we started initially collaborating and guesting as lecturers in each other's courses. Then we have merged companies, and the course that really started it all is this 6-week Zoom cohort-based AI for Creative Pros course, and we've had I don't know how many cohorts, approaching 10 now, which is pretty hard to believe. But it's gone by fast. We've had people come join us from all parts of media and creative, whatever that means. It's pretty fun mixture of people that tune in. We also have entrepreneurs, but artists, graphic designers, UX designers, journalists, comms pros, marketing execs, right?
Yeah, I think you're right to expand the definition of what kind of creative pros means right from the beginning, because we've always conceived of it as that kind of human part of creating something for your job. So that sometimes it's strategies, sometimes it's documents, but other times it's graphics and visuals, audio, stuff like that. And so we'll be covering all those kind of things. We talk about assistants and agents and some of the vibe coding tools and stuff like that. But you mentioned GNI, the Google News Initiative, and I'm a huge fan, right? I went through that program with you, and it very much changed my life. I laid down the groundwork then, right at the beginning, the kind of this early generative AI revolution for the companies and communities that I've started and I'm a part of now and stuff. And then, as you know, I have completed the virtuous circle. They launched an AI lab, the GNI AI Lab, earlier this year, and I was like, I got to apply for that. The first time I did it was so good. I was disappointed to get a call back saying that I was not accepted, but it didn't be disappointed for too long, because a minute later they called me and said, you might have got our decline on you being a participant, and that's because we'd like you to be one of the lab co-leads as a coach. So for the last 5 months, I have been working for Blue Engine Collaborative with Katie Mercer and Joss Duncan Ase, the other 2 coaches for that lab, and we've been leading 65 journalists through an AI upgrade there as well and stuff. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of GNI. I find that the type of stuff that we're doing here at the upgrade and these kind of upskilling and adoption courses quite transformational, like not to be too hyperbolic or exaggerate, but people kind of come in with one idea of what they think AI is, usually chatbots and chat GPT, and from there we really just get to expand together our mindset around what is available and possible with these emergent tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to dive into some of the, things that we like to teach and play with and tinker with. We have a pretty AI tool and model agnostic approach. We certainly, dive into ChatGPT. It's kind of the Swiss Army knife and an OG. You can't really say OG at this stage in AI, but the one that really kicked everything off. And we really cover variety of use cases from visual to, interactive, web dev, vibe coding, right? As well as audio, interactive avatars, AI for all different parts of your workflows as a creative pro, whatever you're creating, and whoever it's for. And so we have kind of, also a very much like process oriented and workflow oriented approach to advising people. um, Speaking of, we have, a couple things that I wanted to dive into and give people a little bit of value up front here because we've been now teaching courses in partnership with a ton of amazing professionals, right? We have, a variety of other things that I've learned and picked up. And one of the fun ones that I learned from sales, in particular, Shane Gibson, who is really a sales futurist, was this idea of having, an assistant that is part of the marketing funnel that allows you to basically distill your own sort of worldview and brand voice and perspective into, a writing assistant that can help you really impactfully reach larger audiences with your
Yeah.
unique voice faster.
He calls it his content atomization pipeline or his content waterfall. And
That's
last
right.
time he taught this course with us, he showed us his approach to making LinkedIn content. And one of the participants in that class quickly adopted it like day of that Shane showed him. And then the next week he was like, yo, you guys, I got 13,000 shares on this LinkedIn post this week. I don't even know how to deal with the follow-ups. It's completely filled my inbound funnel. And then so Peter just recently, about a month ago, spun up his own version of kind of Shane's content atomization pipeline. The idea is like, take a 1-hour video of thought leadership, even like this LinkedIn Live or a course that you teach or something like that, or even you just talking at the camera, run it through some AI tools and processes and end up with a social media content calendar full of a month's worth of great content that is derivative from the original thing. So without further ado, Peter's going to show some stats and some tools of how he got there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you came over from our sales live, we're going to go a little bit further into the nuts and bolts of how to do this. And I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my LinkedIn analytics tab here?
Not yet. Nothing. No activity.
It takes a sec to come through, but let's see. How about now?
Yeah, there we go.
Great. So, this is a totally different story from a few weeks back before I listened to Shane and decided to build my own essentially brand voice bot. And we'll talk about what tools I'm using, the system prompts, and really kind of nerd out a little bit together. And this is the type of stuff that we really like to roll into our courses too. And so this is pretty representative of the type of stuff that we really like get super excited about. But let's just take a dive into the content. Like what has been really kicking off, and it's really a variety of things. What I realized is a lot of my posts beforehand, and I'll zoom out, kind of the before and after here. If we look over the past month, you can tell when I started to implement this system, right, successfully here. It's really early August when I started seeing some upticks and momentum here.
Dial out one more level to that 90 days. It sure was crazy to see it go from like pretty much nothing ever to a very significant spike.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it's the cadence too that's exciting to me is, seeing this, periodically now. But yeah, I mean almost 3,000%, easy to have crazy high percent when you're starting at, close to zero back here, but, definitely substantial in terms of the impression numbers
I mean,
nonetheless.
but your LinkedIn account as of the earliest dates was well established and you were publishing
Yeah,
things. You just weren't doing it in this way.
that's right.
No.
Yeah, totally. And so if you look here at the example post, like the latest one that blew up here is, it's what I nerd out on and like to speak about. It's all about AI. And in this case, kind of the, slopification of, a Will Smith concert video, like that really kind of blew up in the media. A lot of controversy over the two different aspects of AI being used. One by Will's actual social team, and the way that they essentially used it to take still images and videofy them, and in the process introduced a bunch of like crazy garbageness into, those are kind of horrific, right? And there's no reason they should be that bad. Like this is 2025. Like even if you do that, like it's not very effective use. But the other thing is YouTube, put on an additional AI layer on top of it as part of an early pilot program that clearly made it even worse. And so these are things that I'm using now a Claude project to actually build that has in it, and I'll actually share these two documents here too, my worldview guide and my brand voice guide, right? And these documents really serve as a way to really hone and build some of additional layer of personal context, right? So that I'm not just going and saying, hey, here's the text of an article, right? Write something that's snazzy on LinkedIn and, viral. Like that's not really gonna work, right? And it may have, 6 months ago, but I think because all of this is just getting so overused, right? You really need to have your own unique voice, to stand out, and that's always the case, right? In a crowd, no matter what. But I'll share again here in a sec. But I have
So you're distilling like your domain expertise into these docs, and then you're attaching these docs to assistants and prompts, and thereby getting the thing to know your voice, your perspectives, how you like to write.
Exactly, yeah, and so it may take another minute to spin up here, but we have my worldview guide, right? Which I built, from dozens of hours of our call transcripts, from class as well as with clients, with customers, with each other. These are the things that I really care about. These are my core values and perspectives. I loved building this guide in the first place because it was kind of a bit of a reflective, sort of meditative, introspective process to see like an AI helping me, parse through all of that info and realize
I
like
feel like I've been having this realization lately, Peter, that everybody's recording their meetings these days with Fireflies or Read AI or whatever. And some people are actually using them to, send out to-dos or recaps or whatever. But not a lot of people, I don't think yet, are analyzing them in aggregate to ask themselves, like, what are my patterns? How do I speak in general? How would you define my leadership style in aggregate across a month's worth of calls or a year's worth of calls, And I think that is actually the gold nuggets that are trapped in there. Like people talk about like data being the new gold, and well, it's those Fireflies things and stuff that is the gold mine. You've got a month or a year there of you talking every day for an hour or two to your colleagues about your strategies and tactics and what works and what doesn't, and those are rife to be distilled down into these docs that can ground and provide guardrails around our custom assistants.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a fun process. I really pushed it. And, we go over in class how to build your own and how to plug it in as part of an AI assistant or automation or workflow enhancement that you do as part of our 6-week sort of capstone based project, right? Where you get one-on-ones with us and we are able to actually co-build, right? And that's one of the best parts of the class. But I'm going to also share this tab. Let me know if you can see this. This is a separate one for brand voice. That's a little different, right? It's more messaging. The other one's kind of philosophy, right? The worldview. And this one is really like, how to come across, right? And this goes into pretty big detail. And again, I gave this transcripts of how I speak naturally, but also a lot of my writing, right? Things that I'd already been churning out for blog posts, emails, even, how I actually relate with customers or clients or partners, right? And these are things that, I find to be really helpful when I actually plug them into a variety of different assistants. In this case, for my LinkedIn post assistant, and the human is always in the loop here, right? I don't simply plug and play and let it go. I really have a process where I edit the heck out of it, but it's so nice to have something that feels 90 to 95% of the way there, so that I can then add my own additional thoughts and perspective, and layer that on top of it, right? So human in the loop, master of the loop, I say.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite, obviously this is a very, very verbose document that touches on a lot of different things, from like your emotional side to cadence and stuff like that, and like your linguistic trademarks and stuff. So it's like a very in-depth technical document. And you've shown me two. You've shown me the Worldview document and the Brand Voice document. And so it's like, all of a sudden you've created documents that are useful for machines, but kind of hard for a human to parse. You're like, how do I read and synthesize all this? I love taking those docs that you just generated, pulling them over in a notebook LM, being like, I'm about to make an assistant. Here's my Brand Voice guide and my Worldview and Perspectives document. Give me a 10-minute overview of my personality. And so in that way, you can like have the AIs interpret those two documents and say back to you what they have received as the transmission from it, as a way to kind of tweak it and hone it and make it better.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can use them for so many different things, of course, right? This is one specific use case, and I'm going to share now my Claude project, right? We're going really under the hood here in this demo to show you what I've actually been using it for today, even, right? And this is something that I found to be really helpful. I started as a custom GPT, right? I found that it was really feeling pretty just banal. Like it really just sounded like everybody else on LinkedIn, right? And that I noticed right away, and I would have to edit it substantially, right? Whereas Claude, it seems like it's just better at writing, right? These tools are also always dynamic. They're always changing with different models from each of these, companies. But here's what it looks like as a Claude project. You see, I have these two docs that I just showed you, my worldview guide, my brand voice guide in there, and I have a good old system prompt that says, hey, I am, right? This is who the AI should act as, right? LinkedIn post generator trained on Peter Bittner's voice, right? And then here we have a few steps of how it should approach this. So understand the news story, write a hook, build the body of the post, avoid some of the style pitfalls, include all of these proper attribution and hashtags, right? And so it's going to be using these parts of, and again, you can fill up an entire, this is less than 1% of the project capacity in a Claude project here that's being filled up. I could put in a lot more.
I've noticed, Peter, there's a direct correlation in this case between the project's capacity and the token context window. So if you do get close, I was really excited when I saw yours was only at 1%, because that means you still have 99% of its memory left for dialoguing back and forth with the thing. Yeah. I've been finding on the ones where I like max out my docs here, I had one at like 85%, and I could only have like 1 or 2 back and forth with the thing before Claude was like, yo, you've maxed out the context window, please start over or whatever. So yeah, my personal goal is to make the Claude project as good and useful outputs as possible, while keeping that blue bar as low as possible, so that I can have more back and forth chats with it.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so that's, a great insight. I'll just also show you what I've been up to today, how I'm sort of iterating here live, right? And so I find a great, and this is some of the media judgment too, I find a relevant headline and article to my audience, right? I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm always on, news apps to find, what I need to stay ahead of and share that with my audience. And so this is no difference. And the latest story that today's post is about is really focusing on Meta and the fact that they have, built chatbots. Their own team has that basically copy Taylor Swift, Scarlett Johansson, many other, primarily actresses, right, including underage ones, right, and basically allow, without their permission and consent, act as a personal romantic partner and assistant, even sending nudes of them, you know, as Taylor Swift to users, which is freaking insane, right? That is so messed up. This is the one that, you know, popped up to the top of my personal, you know, need to get this out into the world list today. But, you know, started by simply copying the text into here, thinking about, you know, making sure we give credit to the wonderful reporting from Jeff and Reuters here as part of this, and highlight it, right? And we always link to the different, you know, original sources in my post here. But going back and forth, you know, iterating with the AI as a thought partner, and then I take that over into LinkedIn, create a post, and then further craft it, right? But this is, you know, a quick peek at how I'm using Claude projects, you know, and these variety of techniques here to get some actual traction and, you know, hundreds of thousands of impressions over the past
You know,
weeks.
I'd like to talk about improvements and the features that are coming to that thing down the road, right? And like, so one thing is, you know, that seems like a low-hanging fruit is we should be able to figure out the types of stories you're interested in general. And we should be able to gather like a list of the types of things, like the headlines from today that are relevant to the topics that you speak about to your audience. And then we should be able to develop a little scoring system, essentially, that like looks out there, grabs 10 headlines that you might want to comment on or post about, and then run them through your little criteria maker with a score. And then how about we generate 3 posts in Peter's style on the top 3 things that are going to go viral based on stuff that's already happened. So it's like you've taken care of this whole back end part, which is like, make what I have to say awesome. And then it's like, well, what of the things in the world would you like to comment on? And starting to kind of use the AI to parse those based on, because what you're really trying to do is reach and impact virality here with your posts. And, you know, I wonder which ones would bubble to the top if we asked AI to help us figure out what the most relevant to our audience stories were, or something like that.
Great point, right? And so, you know, I'm automating some of this, right, to a degree, right, to get a nice draft, but there's a lot of manual processes involved, right? And so we could automate, that, you know, kind of news judgment or editorial sense, right? Like getting those live right through a Perplexity API or something, right? We could nerd out and grab some of those live web search results, and then put a filtering layer of Peter's news judgment. And guess what? That's another doc that we'd create, right? And another system prompt probably, right?
And then imagine tying the tail back to the head, which is, you just showed me 90 seconds or 90 days of statistics and performance and stuff. So how about we make some decisions based on what has been going viral on your actual LinkedIn? So it's like, now we're looking at the things you care about and have opinions on, plus the things that have performed well already in LinkedIn, generate story ideas, make the actual things, and then kind of put them back through the whole knowledge base.
Exactly. So one of the next steps that I'm planning to do just with this Claude project is actually take those, you know, 3 or 4 posts that have really taken off and put them back into the knowledge section, right? That's a no-brainer, right? Like that's an easy one. Takes 2 seconds to do, and, you know, slowly build up sort of the news judgment and framing, right, of the project and context there, so that it's able to frame better, faster, and require probably less edits. But, you know, there's other parts of this that could be automated, right, as well. As we mentioned, you know, some things related to potentially sending that draft over already, like after it's gone through all of that, into my LinkedIn potentially, right, ready to review. And so,
or like onto your Slack channel, like, you know, maybe when something cool happens out there in the world that's relevant to your audience and the things you've written about before, it runs it through your process and your bot, and then drops off a ping on your Slack that's like, maybe you should consider posting to LinkedIn about this thing.
Exactly. Yeah. No, great ideas. And so, you know, just at the beginning of this, playing around with it, happy to, you know, build in public here and share. If you are watching this, thanks Eldad for, you know, the shout out here. Love to have you join us live. We invite your questions and comments too. Please let us know whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay. Thanks for watching, by the way, and spending part of your day with us. Just ping us, shoot us a quick note here on LinkedIn. Let us know that you enjoyed this, found it useful, or tell us what you're playing with. In terms of models, tools, etc.
I got a couple things I'm playing with that I would be happy to show here.
Awesome.
And this isn't a super canned demo or anything, but Midjourney, the tool that got me into AI to begin with. Are we seeing my Midjourney?
Yes, we
Great.
got it.
So Midjourney is the tool that got me into AI to begin with back in the day. And I've generated so many images over the years for a lot of different projects. You know, like I had this whole future-proof thing going for a while with the very unique kind of cartoony visual style. And I worked that for a long time through my meetups and stuff. And I felt like I developed a really kind of cool aesthetic with this one, you know. And but Midjourney had been like lagging behind some of the other models. Like ChatGPT opened a cool new image model that could do words really well, and it was like able to handle diagrams and stuff. But then, and Midjourney kept like working under the hood on like their, their ability to have standard characters throughout different generations and consistent scenes and the ability to like in paint and change just parts of images and stuff. And so this is just an example of a bunch of images that I had generated along the way. But then just recently they rolled out video, and you can bring to life new things or things that you had made previously. And so then I got to start going back to my original generations that I had made here in Midjourney and adding some videos to them. So I've just clicked on these buttons here in my create situation. It's taken those original source materials that I gave it, and it's going to start to turn these stills into some video clips. And it gives you 4 options of each one. You can either do high motion or low motion, just means a lot of movement or a little. And then you can either do like linear or loop. And I'll show you what I mean here with some that I had done this morning. So last week, for the BC AI Industry Association, was starting to develop some graphics related to this kind of like West Coast, dark coast with kind of a biotech AI theme to it. And then this morning, I started to plug some of those into the little video tool, and I have it on low motion and looping. So it takes the still and generates 4 variations of a 5-second clip that actually loops back upon itself.
Man, so that was so wild. That's epic.
Pretty wild.
Let us know. Yeah, thanks for the comment.
And I now have been bringing these into Canva and layering text on them and stuff, and then exporting for Instagram. And you can continue to revise these through the in painting option, or the really cool one is like, let's go here to this first one. So now that this has been generated, I can extend it even more. So you get a few options. You can prompt it to change what's there, or you can continue to extend it. So this time I'm going to go into the high motion category and extend this one in particular. And so it's back up here thinking about this, and we'll review it in a second. But I just wanted to show you also those ones that we generated just here together on this call. So this is from those stills that I clicked the low motion animate on. Couple variations. This is without prompting, so you can give it prompts as well, like zoom out and make fashion photos.
This is a trippy ass music video in the making, my friend. Yeah, what's the backtrack to this? What's the next scene? Is it a close up? Is it wide? Like this is,
we should go make one. Here's the other one. I think
we should. Eldad has a great question here too. Thanks for the questions. Do you feel the shift is now to use AI for automation and therefore custom GPTs, while useful or actually beginner level? Or do we need to start upskilling into using APIs and no-code platforms? If the automation, what are some of the better resources which helped you learn? So that's a great question.
I'll take that one too.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I mean, you're right in some ways, and also all of this is like super progressive and stuff, right? And so we're tool agnostic, and so we're talking about writing great prompts, building good knowledge bases, using those to create assistants, which in this case is maybe a custom GPT, but it need not be a custom GPT. It could be something else as well. So it's like we're working on great prompting plus creation of knowledge bases, and then using those to build assistants, and then tying assistants together into automations, as you say, or even tying different automations together into like agentic systems and stuff like that. And so the most interesting thing for me about leading this course, and in some ways like the most challenging part for us as instructors, is like everyone comes in at different levels, but we're all kind of going on this journey of like figuring out our workflows and our pipelines and what types of ways of interacting with these tools will give us the most like impactful results in general. And so sometimes, you know, those answers are going to be different for everybody, both based on the types of work that they do and kind of like where they're at on their journey. But like for sure at, you know, as Peter said, we've taught this 10 times, and vibe coding didn't exist the first time we've taught it. And the last 2 times we have showed
A lot
vibe
of this
coding
didn't exist, man.
APIs and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. And we kind of like start at the basics and build. And a big part too of this whole thing is 2 components that make it unique. One is one-on-one coaching through the program with Peter and I. So we book sessions with you and dig right into your kind of very specific questions or interests or passions or explorations or whatever. And then also, you know, it's a capstone based, cohort based situation. So you're expected to pick a tool or automation or agent that you want to build. And then we direct all of the learnings through the course at that thing. And then you're also in this kind of cohort based situation where we are sharing with each other what we build, and often like remixing and resampling other people's ideas. So like the best of everyone's ideas kind of get cherry picked by each other and integrated into their final form of their capstone project. So yeah, I really appreciate that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take a crack at that too, because I think there's sort of a misconception that using AI sort of, even like, let's say out of the box, it's not even a custom GPT, is beginner and therefore sort of not useful. And I don't think that's true necessarily, right? I think Kris and I both see sort of a spectrum of AI use, right? And in some cases, you're just looking for a quick query and you're using it like similar to a Google search even, right? And it's just a few keywords you're typing in to get a response. Still useful. Whether it's beginner or not is kind of irrelevant, right? I still do that. It's more of a simple use case, but it's going to solve your pain point, right? Or your problem for that. Whereas, you know, building out a super complex automation with, you know, series of different, you know, triggers and conditions and multiple AIs, you know, working can be really powerful. It can also be an absolute time suck and rabbit hole, right? And so there's cases when it makes perfect sense, right, to do that, to be able to save a ton of hours for an entire team, right, and automate massive process, right? But there's an investment up front to do that, and knowledge and skills that are required, right? And it's not really necessary for everything, right? And so finding that's, you know, yeah, real sort of, I guess, case by case basis, you know, judgment layer is really what we're helping people do. Understand, first of all, the whole spectrum, how to build and, you know, approach these various parts of it, whether it's, you know, an AI assistant, an automation, an agentic system, which is even more sort of autonomous, right? And, you know, we
Yeah.
explain and break down what all that stuff is in much more detail in the course. But once you know what the menu is, like,
Yeah, it's all mindset
you know,
stuff. That's why we do the 5-minute assistant in the first course. So we go to our LinkedIn's, we download our LinkedIn as a PDF, we open up ChatGPT, we create a new GPT, and we give it just a 1-line system prompt. We say like, "You're my useful office assistant who helps me with everything I need." And within 1 minute, we're clicking save. So it's got a custom system prompt, it's got a custom knowledge base, which is just your LinkedIn. You hit save, and you're off to the races. And you can immediately see how the outputs improve 1,000%, but that's just the beginning of the beginning, because now you know about how to make assistants in general. Then we start iterating on top of those and making it, you know, more specific. Then we start tying it into other systems and stuff. And so it's really about learning the basics, having this kind of like mindset unlock, and then stacking wins on top of that.
Yeah, I think it might also be useful too to just talk a little bit about what are some of, you know, the final projects. What do they look like, right? And so we have, yeah, 6-week course. Every week we have 90 minutes of live class time. We have some, you know, optional homework assignments. We also have one-on-one coaching sessions built in. You get 2 of them. throughout that 6 weeks. You can take both with me, both with Kris, one-on-one, but we help you build towards a real tangible, whether it's an AI assistant, an automation, process rethink or overhaul, a pilot, right? It could be a actual tangible, website that you've built or new product that comes out. It could be, we've had a 1 minute entirely AI generated film trailer, which was super cinematic, blew my mind, right? Tons of different things come out of this course. The 6th class is all show and tell with creative pros who've gone down those rabbit holes, sharing with one another. And it's amazing. It really is. It gets me fired up just thinking about doing it again, right? All over. KK, what are some of the projects, that stand out in your mind that people have actually come out with?
I mean, Sarah Curry's Creative Brief Bot is always a real interesting one. She works at the Ontario College of Art and Design University, and she fields many, many creative projects across a variety of departments. And turns out, most people, now I backed myself into a corner, but she wanted to give tools to her clients inside the organization that allowed them to get her creative briefs that were useful to her, and therefore could kind of like streamline the kickoff of projects where people had gathered their assets and done different things. And so she built a custom GPT for leading her people through the process of developing a creative brief. And once they were done, they would send that into her and she would initiate a project with them. I loved that one quite a bit.
Yeah.
We get a lot of folks who reinvent themselves during this program as AI first designers or AI first writers or AI first marketers, and they're building portfolio websites,
filmmakers, you name it.
Yeah, and those folks are building websites that speak to their new, like portfolio websites that speak to their new capabilities and have kind of demos or AI portfolio pieces that they've built in there. That's another really common capstone project. Gosh, that guy Simon Hayworth, the CEO of the drug company who found himself in our course, he made a crazy, it's called AI for Creative Pros, but this guy's a CEO and a painter, and he was in there, and for his company, he built a drug discovery tool that took these crazy huge data sets that had all the results and outputs of their analysis, and it parsed it for the ones that were most likely to be successful so that he could pass them along to his team. And he built this kind of like inference translator that looked through all the stuff, found the gold nuggets, and passed them down the pipeline. And so he automated a major part of their drug discovery process in our course with his capstone.
Yeah, and that's just insane, to think about, the potential to plug into your process, whatever it is, whatever type of business. Like we use the word creative very broadly.
Yeah, I think about that guy Sam Waterfall, who's he's like a specialized HR and recruiting consultant. He helps you kind of like rebrand yourself when you're going back out in the market. So he gives you resumes, cover letter, portfolio, website, and a bunch of social media thought leadership assets. This has been his process for a long time, and he came not knowing what he was getting himself into, but walked out of the thing with a engine for doing most of the things he took his special sauce and he distilled it into a custom assistant, and then was able to give his proprietary, unique consulting approach to all of his people in a 1 hour instead of 8 hours type of a way.
Yeah, I mean, basically, allowing him to be an on-demand resource and have a version of himself which is 24/7 accessible with his distilled expertise from decades of experience, right? And success stories. So if you want to AIify yourself, we can definitely help with that too. Yeah. That's definitely something that happens. I'm curious if you're watching out there, whether live or afterwards, what are you struggling with in terms of AI? Like, we'd love to just hear what you're experimenting with, things that you see as a bottleneck for yourself and your trajectory, whether it's personal or professional. Be curious to learn about that. We've had people go through with various skill levels. Yeah, go ahead.
I got another fun one to share here for you real quick too. This is like the latest and greatest thing. You maybe have heard of Nano Banano. This is Google's new free image generation tool, and just dropped about 2 weeks ago. Are you seeing my screen?
On screen now, yeah.
All right. So this is the interface. This is free inside aistudio.google.com. And you can see a couple little bit of controls here, like the temperature, as well as some other basic settings here. But just let me show you what I ran it through. I took a photo of me. I was like, turn this into a full-length fashion photo. I don't know where that preview actually went. It was pretty good. And then I was like, yo, take that one and make four more variations of it or whatever here. Here, let me just.
It's so good. That's amazing. So you gave it a headshot, and it gave.
I gave it a headshot, and the first prompt I gave it was like, "Yo, zoom out and make this a Vogue cover." And then the second prompt I gave it was like, "Yo, make that a whole like police lineup of me or whatever." And then I started to extend it to other places. And here's it's failing on me. I might have to send it back. Oh, here we
go. We need to pray to the demo gods here. Whenever we do something live, it always fails, right? Always works when we're not in front of an audience.
We got pretty good demo luck, actually.
Fingers crossed. Don't jinx it.
All right. I have to stop this one for now because it's just flailing. But I ran like 8 different permutations, taking just what was one portrait. I like made a Vogue cover. Then I made variations. Then I distilled that and made it in the future. Then I put it on a billboard in the city downtown. And it was all keeping my character and my face consistent while extending these different places. And it's like instantaneous and it's free. So here we go. So this was the first one. I was like, yo, just zoom out and make me a full length, dude.
It's good.
And then I was like yo, grab the whole team. Then grabbed another one here. And I was like, okay, take this one now, zoom out. I look like a fat man in a little jacket. I think I need to find a new suit. But then I was just like, oh yeah, take it into the future. It gave me these wild boots. And then I was like, stick it on a billboard in Vancouver for me there real quick,
Excellent.
Like that. So that's Nano Banano, and I'm just getting started with that one there.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to play with too. We've had people who were starting content businesses and from scratch. For example, even like hyperlocal news publications have come through, and building them sort of a what I'm trying to do here, Kris, is like think about what's a real life use case for playing around with Nano Banano, right? And it might be you're actually trying to build like a brand palette and an asset library, right, of things that are really for your own business, right? And so we can help you do that and create some of the different types of visual brand guidelines and AI assistants that'll generate things within that specific type of aesthetic. So that's something that we like to play with.
And I've done just that too here in Midjourney. So I've started to make 3 different mood boards, and these mood boards generate a unique style code, and then I can continue to generate new ideas in that particular style code. So this is me and Peter's the upgrade branding stuff here. This is that future-proof creatives one, and this is like the Vancouver AI meetups and stuff. And so I can add previous logos or previous artwork to it, grab the code from that, and then continue to generate new ideas in the style of this mood board that I had created. So that's, so like here, use this in a prompt. So there's the code. And now, you can be like a classroom of the future. Mm-hmm. And whatever we get here will likely be in the relative style of, our upgrade stuff there, especially if this one is turned off.
Yeah, this is amazing. I remember when we were first teaching, Midjourney didn't even have a proper user interface like this, right? It was all only.
It didn't have a user interface at all. Yeah, it was on Discord.
Yeah. So, and that's still a fun way to play with it, right? I still go there first, like by muscle memory, right? When I'm tinkering, but it's really powerful to have these. And
I've gotten really into the mood boards and the ability to like organize things and stuff like that and rate and rank stuff or whatever. This is going to work as a perfect example. I can see it already.
It's cool. Yeah.
Like just as a notice the difference in style of this row that looks a lot more like our stuff. This comes out of that NASA logo stuff. And then this comes out of the future-proof creative stuff.
Right,
but it's amazing, Peter.
It is. Nice. Look at
coming
that
right out
classroom right there.
Right. So there's the mood board that I started with. And then there's the, oh man, there's the outputs that it came up with in our style. Quite amazing.
Yeah, those look phenomenal. We're gonna use those on our website. I'm sure of it. Yeah, love that.
All right, let those sort themselves out while we continue. Do you
Eldad
want
has another
to?
big question here. Eldad, you're on fire. Thank you for joining us live here. So, have you found any good tool to build short animated videos? So, if we got a lesson can become an animated video and then shared with students. That's a really good question. So, what are you using now? Let me ask. Yeah, before we go into too much detail there. But Kris, I'm curious what your sort of gut reaction is.
So you could even do that in Midjourney. And I had popped open ChatGPT right as Ubdov started to ask his question. I'm like, create a cartoon in the style of whatever. And so if I can create stills in anything, I can bring those on in and animate those there. That's one good way to do it. And then there's another really cool tool that Peter and I use all the time called Augie Studio. And this is another kind of animation, low-end animation tool to create whole 3 to 5 minute shorts based on a script. And it can just pre-populate it with images and animate those and tie them together and stuff like that. So that's one place to start, is like make your cartoons in GPT, pull them into a tool like Midjourney, and start to bring them to life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach that, and new tools coming out all the time with video gen in particular. It's mind-boggling how good they're getting, how fast it's changing. And every time we teach the course, whatever course it is, but especially Creative Pros, we have essentially a reinvention of the lessons every single time, because the tools and use cases and workflows have all suddenly change and are dramatically more powerful. So if you're waiting and thinking like, oh man, I'm so behind, or isn't there something that's gonna be like forever changing, that I'm gonna waste my money if I jump into one of these courses, like I'll say absolutely not. Because we also teach a foundation that is really focused on having real world sort of battle tested tinkering experimentation that's going to allow you to have a mindset to approach whatever new tool or update comes out next, to be able to hit the ground running with it, right? And so
I think it's pretty obvious to most people that are paying attention that this is not going to be the last time that we're asked to kind of technologically reinvent ourselves in our careers. I've been through the web revolution and the mobile revolution, and now I'm going through the AI transformation and revolution. It's like, so I believe that this course, the way we structure it, is helping to prepare you for other types of change that's coming in the future as it relates to technology. I really do think we're at the beginning of the beginning. I think you got to plant your flag somewhere. And I think, even more kind of philosophically, like if inside your organization, you want to be a part of AI decision-making around like, what tools do we want to use? Where do we want to use them versus continue to use humans for those types of things? If you want to be a part of that brain trust around AI of the future, it's important that you develop a vocabulary and some experience and some, perspectives about this stuff. And so I wouldn't wait till someone else figures all this stuff out for you and your organization. I would, arm yourself to be a person who's at that table, a part of that conversation.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you're within an organization, you want to be one of the first to raise your hand and volunteer for this kind of stuff, and be able to help shape the future of the workplace. Or it's a really boring way to say it, but like you really want to have the ability to set things on your own terms. And knowledge is power, right? In this moment more than ever. And I know that LinkedIn just came out with a survey that more than half of workers feel like learning AI is a second job. And like, to me, that sounds horrible, right? With that mentality and approach, no wonder people aren't excited about this stuff. But it can be awesome. It can be fun.
I was having an interesting conversation with a woman at the park yesterday when I was walking my dog. She saw my t-shirt and she was like, oh, what's up with this Vancouver AI thing? I've been wanting to come out and stuff. And I found ourselves in this conversation. She's been looking for a job for a while since she moved to India. And I found myself saying, I would rather be someone with 6 months of deep AI hands-on expertise than I would be a master's of computer science grad with no 6 months AI experience right now. I think there's 500 people with masters of computer science degrees sitting in stacks of job apps for software engineers and stuff like that. And then there's these other folks that are reinventing their whole workflows and models and tool sets from the ground up using these AI things. And I think those people are a lot more interesting as hires and candidates than someone with, what used to be a very valuable degree.
Absolutely. I mean, that was really kind of the whole point of my keynote at the recent AI, community meetup in Vancouver there. And if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, go check out that YouTube video that focuses on the future of work, right? And why it's a really important moment to, take your career journey by the reins here and, be in the driver's seat. So anyway.
Yeah, man.
Plug complete. So for those still watching, we have a quick breakdown of the course module by module that we're going to go through real quick. And we'll take questions here throughout as well. Also, if you have other ones, we're also going to, go over what a few students have, gotten out of the course here specifically in terms of tangibles. But I'm going to screen share here in a sec and let me know if you can see it coming through, Kris, on your end. 1 minute. Here we go. Great. All right. Can you see it?
Not yet.
How about now?
There we go.
Boom. There we go. Great. So you can see in the upper right-hand corner, we have our QR code, so you can go check this out yourself. But welcome to AI Upgrade for Creative Pros here. You'll see we have the week-by-week syllabus laid out with what we cover, and all of these need to be updated. We have GPT-4 here, so every single time we teach it, it's going to be the latest models, the latest tools, the latest and greatest everything here. So this is, even last time we taught it in the spring, right? GPT-4 was still pretty good, right? GPT-5 has come out. There's been mixed reviews on that. We'll be talking about the pros and cons of all these different models. Again, we take an AI agnostic approach, but we have specific, differentiated models and modules, I should say here, class sessions that cover things from, the basics, right? Things that in week 1, you're going to want to know directionally what we're talking about, the lingo, some demos of what's possible that might blow your mind. Then we have some things related to wordsmithing and workflows. So things like earlier on in this recording, when I was covering my LinkedIn AI assistant, right, that's helped me generate hundreds of thousands of impressions over the last few weeks. We'll go through that in detail and help you build your own. Then in week 3, we're going to cover more of the visual stuff that, Kris has been demoing with some of the Midjourney and the latest Google models. We then will talk a little bit about some of this fertile territory of assistance, right? Like what this specifically could look like as part of, a multi-AI system or agentic process, and how you can approach building that, what tools you might want to use, how specifically to do that too in a powerful way to help level up. And then one of my favorite lessons here is really about ethics. It's, diving into some of the real world gray area together as a creative community and thinking through the pros and cons and helping to really shape, the norms about this really bizarre space we occupy right now.
Yeah, that class always runs way over.
It does. It does. I mean, it's so important to have these conversations. And
turns out humans have some concerns about the future alongside all of our optimism about, the opportunities and unlocked capabilities and stuff. And so the ethics class is a real good chance to, we'll have been through a month of course together, and we'll get a chance to really, with our kind of new perspectives, hash out what we think about where and when and how this stuff should be used and where we think where we're going.
Exactly right. And then week 6 is the capstone project presentations, the show and tell. And this is, probably, the place where everyone gets to share the rabbit holes that they've been poking around in. And, it could be a big in-depth massive project. It could be a la carte, some really interesting explorations of a bunch of different tools or things that we've shown. And
I want to really just kind of drive home here. Like, so yeah, last class is show and tell. You maybe think that's optional, but this whole circular learning situation where it's like a group of people learning together as a cohort is very, very valuable. I guarantee you will mix and remix and sample things out of other people's capstone. I do every time. It's one of those classic ones where like the student becomes the master. It's like, I love the capstone class a lot because I get so many ideas from the ways you all have taken these tools and techniques and workflows and then reintegrate into your own stuff and build something beyond what we could even imagine. So that's a great chance to kind of like cherry pick the best and brightest ideas from your colleagues and come together and work on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what do people leave with, right? So a great foundation, an actual sort of, I think, fluency in AI terminology and tools, as well as real familiarity and confidence to continue to keep up to speed with all of this stuff as the space continues to accelerate, as well as real life, prototypes, agents, assistants, yeah, film trailers, you name it, right? That are really ready to hit the ground running, demo, pitch. A lot of people take their final capstone project presentation and pitch it internally, or create a whole new product offering, right? Or a new SOP for their team, right? Or organization. They, then present to their supervisor, their CEO in some cases, and have an entirely different AI native approach, right? To existing, yeah, industry products, services, etc. So we start next week. We start in less than a week, and we still have a few spots left. We'd love to see you there. We have class running at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Eastern time on Mondays, starting September 8th for upcoming cohort for September. We have another one kicking off in October, and we have a special discount for you today for watching this that you can use for either of them. And I'm going to share that now. You'll see it in the upper right-hand corner in that QR code. We'll also pop it here into the chat. But we're getting some great comments here. I'm going to put a few on screen right now. But
see you later, Eldad. See you later, Rob. Thanks for coming by, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to see you all here. And thanks for your time, spending some of your Tuesday with us. We hope to see you in the class. And if you have other questions, I think we're going to have some other time to answer them too by email. So feel free to contact us that way. Ubdav, great to see you here as well.
Yeah, and if for some reason the kind of coming every week for 6 weeks doesn't work for you, but you want us to come do some sort of custom training like this inside your organization, as I said, I did one of those for AMD with my partner Pete Paschel this morning, 75 people. We do those both online and in person for larger organizations that want to do this in a team-based fashion. So hit us up, let us know where you're at and how we can help.
Yeah, absolutely. We've jumped into all different types of organizations. We've trained data center teams, right? In comms, PR, marketing. We've trained Fortune magazine's entire newsroom, right? In AI first best practices. We're pretty agile. We like to work across creative industries, and we'd love to work with you. And we also do individualized coaching too for executives, for individuals. We love the opportunity to, work in small groups or individually.
It's very, very expensive though. You're welcome to just come to the course. You'll save a lot.
There you go. Yes. And we have that deal for 30% off. So without further ado, we hope to see you in class next
Thanks,
Monday.
everybody.
Thank you for
Thanks,
your time.
Peter.
Yeah.
I'm stoked to get this one off, man.
Absolutely. All right.
Over now.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.